Welcome to Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams, the podcast where we explore the wisdom, resilience, and dreams of those who came before us and how their legacy shapes our present and future. I'm Cara, and each week we'll dive into stories, traditions, and conversations that reconnect us with our roots, our ancestors, and help us plant seeds for a brighter tomorrow. This podcast is about more than storytelling. It's about reclaiming our narratives, reflecting on our journey, and rooting ourselves in the dreams that carried our people forward. So grab your tea, your journal, or just a moment of quiet as we take this journey together. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Luce. She is a certified spiritual life coach, a licensed minister, a certified meditation guide and energy healer, and she will be talking to us today about liberation and embodiment. Welcome, Luce.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
To start, can you tell us what rooted in our ancestors' dreams mean to you?
To me, being rooted in our ancestors' dreams means living in alignment with the vision and the sacrifices and the prayers of those who came before us.
Thank you. One of the topics that we're discussing today that you are coaching in or you are involved in is liberation and embodiment. Can you tell us, when you say liberation embodiment, what are you helping people liberate from and into, and how is this distinct from therapy or traditional life coaching?
Absolutely. So in the context of my life, my life's work, my mission, liberation is about unlearning what I believe really never belonged to us, which is religious guilt, shame, and survival mode as a way to live versus as a way to cope. We are liberating from those things in order to reclaim what's always been ours, what has been our birthright and the birthright of our ancestors, to claim our desire without shame, to be sovereign, and to experience joy and pleasure.
Ooh, thank you. That plays very well into your certification as a spiritual life coach, and also, you know, the being a licensed minister. So, you know, for clients carrying trauma or chronic stress, what is your first gentle step to rebuild body safety, curiosity, and presence?
Well, and kind of bring in the part B to your first question. First, I want to see and do intake to see where they are, because as a spiritual life coach who works in liberation and embodiment, I do not diagnose. I am not a therapist. I don't build treatment plans in that way. So I definitely want to make sure, one, that they're in the right place. That if they are dealing with and still very much in a trauma state, that they are at the very least in therapy and working on that, because I am not qualified to, again, diagnose or treat trauma. And then even with life coaching in generally speaking, it's very goal oriented, as in, like, we're going to accomplish this very concrete thing. And here, I want to help them trust their bodies more. And so once we've established those things, regardless of where and what my client's specific desires are, the baseline is safety within their own bodies. And that means something different to everyone, because they're all coming in from their own lived experience. But I need them to, obviously, not necessarily that they're going to automatically feel 100% safe in their body because I said so, but we need to start rebuilding those connections of safety as opposed to outsourcing it to other people, places, or things.
Thank you. I'm wondering, like, for this type of work, who would be a good candidate and who wouldn't be a good candidate?
So it starts with first that I specialize in working with individuals who have experienced religious and or narcissistic trauma. Oftentimes the two overlap, which is why I highlight those two very specifically. But it's also someone who has been on some kind of healing journey. I am not the person who would be suited for somebody who is fresh off of just realizing that they have trauma. And I'm like, oh, I like what she's doing over there. Let me go to this coach. I need someone who started at least to ask questions, that they're looking at what they have been taught and what they've been given with healthy skepticism at the very minimum, because the work that we're going to do is going to challenge a lot of things that they were taught and modeled by either their family and or their church.
Okay. So would this be a good fit for people who maybe had identity issues or like eating disorder, or they're not comfortable with the way their body looks?
Absolutely. I truly believe that our sexuality and our identity are intertwined in a lot of these areas, even before we even get in the bedroom to engage in any sexual act with a person. And so body images, but also somebody who's struggling to be able to enjoy and or just engage freely in sexual acts. Male, female, non-binary, it doesn't matter. Someone who doesn't even trust themselves to get into a relationship. Someone who doesn't have good boundaries, which means that they have to know that my boundaries aren't good. Someone who knows that they are scared to even communicate what they like, or are afraid to live in their authenticity in whatever body they're in whatever presentation that feels authentic to them, whatever relationship they want to be in, whether they are queer or poly, and they're just nervous about people around them and being afraid of being judged, living in their truth.
So you cover a lot of different aspects of not just trauma, but also just being comfortable with who you are and the things that you've went through that may or may have not been traumatic.
Absolutely.
Okay. Many of us inherit body shame from culture, religion, family, or media. How do you help clients unlearn these scripts while honoring their lived context?
So one of the first things we do when we are dealing with shame, wherever it comes from, is to name what we believe and or what we have been taught. And we start to just excavate and ask questions on whether or not we still believe them, whether or not they are or have been harmful to us or someone else. Because sometimes it hasn't been harmful to us, but we can see how it's harmful to our neighbor. And then we start to negotiate. And then just being able to feel free enough to negotiate with those things, and to truly be able to just start to explore what it would mean, whether it's in your own, in just your own life, but also in your relationships, if you threw that all away. If you no longer believe this thing, that, let's say, a big one, that fornication that fornication, one, means sex before marriage, and that is a sin. If you're at a place where you've gone down the rabbit hole and you've listened to scholars and you've learned that, in the original context of those scriptures, what they are talking about in fornication is actually sexual trafficking and sexual exploitation. It was not a condemnation of consenting adults choosing to have sex outside of marriage or before marriage. And so, but my brain might know that. I see those words on the paper and I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. But my body still doesn't know it. But first we have to acknowledge those things so then we can start to take the journey of how do I bring my nervous system and my emotions, the sensations in my body to feel safe to do these things along where my brain is already at that destination.
So would you, listening to all this, would you say that you're kind of like maybe a sex therapist almost, or like a sex coach?
Yes, and that is something that actually I'll be working on in 2026, is to actually become certified with the Sexual Health Alliance as a sex coach. So yeah.
Oh, congratulations. It
Thank you.
does sound like a lot of the stuff you say resonates with a lot of body positivity work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And kind of teaching people how to, again, love their bodies or love the skin they're in, but also how to overcome the different trauma and maybe some of the, what would you say, missed messages or faulty messages that they receive.
The harmful theology is the phrase that we use. That it's used to control us and manipulate us. And that is harmful. And, I study a lot of psychology. So there's little T traumas and there's big T traumas. Some people, it hasn't been a big T trauma. It is more of a little T trauma, but more than labeling it a trauma, it's important to me because it's keeping them from embodying exactly who they are meant to be. I believe that our purpose, and I don't know if you remember the purpose-driven life. I was at a time very, very obsessed with that book because I felt like I didn't know my purpose. And one day in prayer, God's like, y'all got it all wrong. Your purpose is not what you do. We're human beings. I created you to be. And the things that you do from who you are, that's where alignment comes in. And so my goal for anyone who steps into a Radiant session is that they leave more confident in who they are so they can embody that, be fully present in themselves as they navigate life.
Oh, I just love, I want to say how you have kind of put this, that you're not one afraid or cautious about putting together, theology, spirituality, and also body work and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important because I think a lot of what we do learn about sex and identity and, gender and stuff, it does come from biblical or theology. And I always say that people interpret the Bible or these books how they want them to fit into their narrative.
Yeah. My pastor, Christian A. Smith, says that translation is an act of interpretation. Everyone who has translated the Bible has chosen to interpret it in a way, and their individual context, history, biases all help to inform where they decide to put a comma because the original text had no punctuation. And if you study to just 6th grade level English, where a comma goes can change the meaning of a whole sentence.
Absolutely.
And so if we're powerful, if we're going to be whole, if we're meant to live holistically, God created us spirit, soul, and body. then in order for us to become who God created us to be at his original intention, then we have to address ourselves and our issues, our traumas, our beliefs, etc., from a spiritual aspect, from a soulish aspect, and from a somatic aspect as well. All of those things work together.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of flack or naysayers or eyebrow raises from people who see that you're a minister, but this is also what you're into?
All the time. But I expect it. Yeah, a lot of questioning, a lot of, I've been called a witch, a harlot. I get it all.
Oh, wow. What made you go into this type of work?
So I was in a very, very dangerous abusive relationship. And 2016, 2017, I started therapy for the first time in my life because everything that I knew to do, including pray, including go to church, wasn't working. And therapy was the only thing I had never tried. And so I was like, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least I tried, and I went. And in one of my very first sessions, my therapist asked me what I believed about God and about myself as it relates to God. And she looked at me and she said, is that God that you know, or is that the God that you were given? And that question gave me permission to ask more questions and led me down a path that thankfully eventually also included within that year I left that relationship and continued for several more years of therapy. And I found sacred sensuality and sacred sexuality. And because so much of my trauma has been sexual, in and out of the church, starting with just, again, purity culture, to being sexually assaulted, I realized, you know what, we need more of this. And so several years later, as much as it would have been enough that I just get to share my testimony that I survived an abusive relationship, I made a commitment to God that I wanted to do more. I wanted it to mean more. That if I could help one person to realize that not only can they get out, but they can thrive, then it was worth it.
Wow, that's such a powerful testimony. And I am so glad that you were able to free yourself and leave that relationship and find, what you were looking for.
Thank you.
Because we often do receive those messages. I know growing up, I don't know how it is now, probably a little freer, but I know growing up in the 80s, we didn't really get a full talk about our bodies or sex. And I know depending on the culture or some things, we do receive those very negative views about body and sex. And
Yeah.
it makes us ashamed of how we look, even though it's not our fault, if we're overdeveloped girls, but we get those looks and those reputations, and it really does play into how we see ourselves as women and as beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, and even in the KJV, which is probably one of the worst translations, Jesus said, "Pluck your eye out." If you have an issue and it's not her that's the problem, it's you.
Yeah.
And yet here we are. And unfortunately, yeah, there are still good churches and good pastors who are undoing a lot of that harm, but there are still too many churches that are holding on to that harmful theology. And even worse, they know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know what's right, but for a myriad of reasons we won't get into, they still choose to teach purity culture. and uphold those very, very harmful and toxic beliefs to women and men. It harms us differently, but it's also very harmful to men as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Are most of your clients women or men? What do your clients look like mostly?
So it's about 70-30 women and men. So it is more women, but I do have quite a few men that I have had the honor of coaching and helping. And that has been really, really great. For me, even just personally, just to know that men care, that they are that they're out here doing the work as well, because there is that, there's that a narrative that men aren't healing, and there are some that are, and so it's been an honor to help them as well.
I love that. I do. What does progress look and feel like? Interoceptive awareness, nervous system regulation, relationship shifts, boundary clarity, ritual consistency. What does it look like and feel like to you as the coach, but also to the client?
So progress really does, it looks different because each person that comes to me needs something different, is looking for something different. And because so much of the work really is about rebuilding that trust so that they can feel confident, a lot of our sessions are driven by them. And I want them to take control over what it is that they want to address and how our sessions go for however long we're there. So for me, that means looking at progress and seeing how um, much more comfortable and confident they are about speaking up, asking for what they want, communicating for what they want um, in the sessions, outside of the sessions, because most of the work isn't going to be done in the hour and 30 minutes that we're together. It's going to be done in their lives and in their relationships. And so a lot of that is based off of how committed they are. And it's easy for me to tell
Mm-hmm.
if they are doing the work outside, and if they're not, there's no shame. But now we can have that conversation on, okay, why you said you wanted to have this conversation, or that you wanted to try this thing out, or you wanted to do this for yourself, and you didn't uphold that commitment to yourself. And that's okay, except you made the commitment. So let's dig in as to why you didn't. Either did you change your mind? Did you realize that's not what you wanted? Are you scared? Were you dysregulated? What now we can start to figure out what tools do you need in order to make progress in the ways that you're saying that you want to make progress. Because ultimately it's about owning the journey and embodiment becoming a lifestyle.
Oh, I like
This is a lifelong thing. We're not broken toys. So this isn't, oh, we're going to glue myself back together in 6 weeks, I'm done. Most of the times, this is just yet another beginning.
that is good for people to know. And as you speak about progress, like what's in your toolkit? Like what, I guess, processes do you use? What tools? How do you decide what to use and when?
So, as far as the kind of tools, again, very rituals are one of my favorite things to create based off of that person's needs. I am not an astrologer, but I do dabble in astrology. So everyone that sits with me does get an astrology reading that we look at to see where their strengths and weaknesses are, building self-care plans based on their astrology, as well as meditations. I am a meditation guide, and I do write my own meditations, sound healing, as well as, since I am also a singer. I have ADHD, so please don't mind all the I promise I'm not all over the place. And a movement of some kind. I love working out. I love dancing. I need them to figure out which ways their body likes to move and do it.
Do you
I don't
ever get couples?
I haven't worked with a couple, but I would love to. I've had
One
I,
thing that would be good for like couples who are like trying to learn each other and
yeah,
get
it would be great.
intimacy.
Yeah, I actually have a resource on my website. It's called Pleasure Mapping, and in the ebook, I give how to do pleasure mapping, which essentially is just a very free session on figuring out what sensations you enjoy. And so I give a step by step on how you do it by yourself, but also how you can do it with a partner or partners, because I do and have people in my universe that are poly. And it's a really fun way, because in life and in the bedroom, we are very, very goal driven. We want to get to the climax. We want to finish. And too often we miss out the middle, the joy of just being and experiencing and the journey, whether we finish or not. That does not become the mark of a good session, whether or not
Right.
yeah, or I mean, yeah, you could look at it as that. It's like that foreplay could be just it. That is more than enough. It could be complete intercourse, and you might orgasm, you might not, you might tease. Maybe you've seen something and you're like, I want to know what it feels like to play with wax, because our pleasure and pain centers in our brain are right next to each other. And you've never felt comfortable or confident to tell a partner that you want to get spanked, you want to be restrained, or you want to be tickled. Maybe you want feathers. Maybe you want ice. Maybe you want to go to a play party and just watch or engage. And then, do we know how to have the conversations around consent and negotiating what is okay, what is not, how do I get out? All of those things are covered in the pleasure mapping ebook.
And I hope our listeners will take the time to read that, because it sounds very, very interesting. So offer our listeners a 5-minute embodiment micro practice plus aftercare to close safely. What would you do?
Absolutely. Can we do it right now?
We sure can.
Absolutely. All right. So if you're listening, take a moment wherever you are, as long as you're safe and you're not driving or operating heavy machinery. Just close your eyes and breathe normally, whatever that means to you. No forcing, no trying, just being. Letting your chest rise and the air go through your nose and out of your mouth, knowing that as you still yourself, thoughts are going to rush. They're going to come about all the things you need to do, all the things you want to do. It's okay. That is absolutely normal. Just witness it and then let it go, and bring yourself and your attention back to your body. And now I want you to think of a moment in your life when you experienced unbridled pleasure. It doesn't matter what it is, when it was, where it was. Just pick one. You are your own guru, and start to think about the weather of that day. If you can, imagine what you were wearing, who was around, what were you doing. Paint the picture in your mind as clearly as you can, just how much juicy, dripping, joyous pleasure you felt in that moment. And if you choose, because again, you are the captain of your ship, maybe you start to touch yourself, glide your fingers across the skin of your arm, just witnessing how soft your skin is. Maybe you touch the inside of your thigh, or you hug yourself real tight. Just letting yourself feel that pressure, giving yourself love in that very moment. Just basking in how good it feels to be right there. Continue exploring your body. And as you continue touching and adoring this body that you live in, whisper to yourself, I see you. I want you. I choose you. I love you. And you can stay there as long as you want. It's your world. It's your body. It's your pleasure. No one can take that away from you. You can revisit this place anytime you want. And if you're ready, you can open your eyes and just reawaken your body, shake your toes, wiggle your fingers, and breathe. And while you're still in that space, I would invite you to get a journal, a notebook, your notes on your phone, or even your voice note, because not everybody likes to write. And contemplate and ask yourself, what do I need right now to feel complete? How can I invite more pleasure in my life? Don't think, don't judge what comes out. Just let your mind in your hand or your mind in your mouth if you're doing a voice note, and just let it pour out of you. And then when you're done, drink some water, rest, do whatever you feel you need. You have just completed what I like to call an erotic hello.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome.
And to our listeners, this is, please forgive me if I mispronounce your name and please correct me, Luz.
Yes.
And she is the owner of Radiant Sessions, the Radiant Sessions in Baltimore, Maryland. She is a certified spiritual life coach. She is a licensed minister, a certified meditation guide and energy healer, and just an all-around good body positivity queen. And we have enjoyed having her on our show. And as we close, we want to leave you with this thought. You're living proof that your ancestors' dreams were valid, powerful, and worthy. How will you honor them today? Remember, as we walk through this journey together, we are planting seeds for those who come after us. Let's root ourselves in hope, healing, and a vision for a brighter future. Thank you for joining us, all rooted in our ancestors' dreams. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or follow us on social media. We are on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay rooted, stay inspired, and keep dreaming. And please do hit up the Radiant Sessions in Baltimore, Maryland, and get a session in. Thank you so much, Luz, for joining us and answering some of our questions and teaching us.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you, and take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.